Section 9.
Cal Lane's delicate industrial works contrast material and image. Lane resides in Putnam Valley, New York, and her interest in cut steel comes from her experience as a welder. Being a female working in a predominantly male profession, Lane experienced the frustration of gender oppression and stereotyping. Now, she transforms her blowtorch from blue-collar tool to art instrument. She says that turning large steel objects into lace was a bit of a joke for her. I'm a girl, so I should like lace and pretty things and not like to get dirty. So turning an old steel oil tank into lace felt like revenge somehow, she says. Lane used an acetylene torch to create her early pieces because it was the only tool available to her at the time. She later started using a plasma cutter. Nikki Rosado lives and works in Washington, D.C. When she looks at a road map, she finds the things that make us human. Rivers and lakes become fingerprints, wrinkles, and scars. Roads become veins and arteries. Each piece begins with a personal story. Rosado asks an individual about the places that are important to them and how those places have shaped the person they have become. After hearing the details of her subject's life, Rosado uses their photograph as a portrait template. She creates the portrait from a map of the subject's choosing and cuts away all the land masses using a small X-Acto knife, leaving only the roads and rivers behind. The final portrait is visually delicate and lacy, but the material is strong. The map is meant to be folded and unfolded again and again, a quality that Rosado believes represents the human body.
Lorenzo Duran became inspired to make cut-leaf art by observing the habits of the caterpillar. He uses his artwork to reflect upon his respect for the environment and his own role in the natural and artistic ecosystem. Nudo de Durero is Duran's humble tribute to artists who create intricate designs that mimic nature's patterns. Intolerancia, as the name suggests, is an exploration of our endless ways of being intolerant. Duran, who resides in Guadalajara, Spain, cuts all of his work on real plant leaves that he washes, dries, and presses before cutting. While the leaves are in the press, he sketches out the drawing, then attaches it to the leaf before starting to cut it out. At the end, he peels it off and repeats the washing, drying, pressing process until the artwork is finished and ready to be framed. He uses a scalpel for cutting the designs and a pointed utensil for removing the wastes, and a cutting mat. Duran finds working with leaves to be a tremendous challenge that yields rich rewards.
Here we see more of Maud White's exquisite work. Based in Hudson Valley, New York, White cuts primarily women, birds, and flowers. She says the intricacy and repetition required to portray these subjects inspires her. A woman's hair, the petals of a flower, and feathers on a bird, they all require the repetition and ritual of her knife. White especially enjoys cutting female portraiture to cast a shadow. She says in these artworks, the woman displayed is never alone because her shadow is a constant and comforting companion.
Claire Brewster creates cut paper art that incorporates found materials, including maps, to celebrate the flora and fauna of urban environments. Brewster observes animals in her London neighborhood, taking note of foxes, squirrels, and an array of birds. She is drawn to birds for their sense of beauty and freedom, and often incorporates their shapes and natural flock formations into her work. Brewster begins each sculpture with a realistic drawing to get the bird form as natural as possible. She then creates a template and sticks it on the back of the map she is going to use. Working from the back of the template, Brewster carefully cuts out all the pieces using a scalpel and arranges them on foam board. She might spend hours moving the pieces around before carefully pinning them down and sending the work off to be framed. Brewster pays close attention to lightness and flows in her arrangements, and tends to create flocks of birds only in odd-numbered formations. Inspired by deep space photography, British artist Andy Singleton's suspended paper cuttings capture a sense of fluid motion and energy found outside the bounds of our planet. He creates sculptures of nebula, great powerful clouds of dust, and galaxies clustered together to convey a sense of power and interconnectedness. Singleton first began cutting paper in 2005 while finishing his illustration degree. He was creating very detailed hand-drawn images and wanted a way to layer the drawings by cutting into negative space. When he turned the drawing over, he found the back of the paper to be more interesting than the drawing itself. Singleton uses an X-Acto knife to hand-cut all his work. He usually begins by drawing a loose outline of the design on paper and then makes a pattern. He manipulates the paper into a 3D form and repeats the process to build up multiple components of the structure. Once he has enough pieces created, he arranges them all together and hangs the installation using monofilament wire. An installation can take up to 3 weeks to construct, depending on scale. Cut Up, Cut Out, on exhibit June 26th through August 23rd. Visit MaslinMuseum.org for more information.